The latest Blue Chip Economic Indicator survey finds projections for growth are heading higher for this year as well as next. This survey, by the way, has been taking the pulse of leading business economists for the past 35 years. Randell Moore is its executive director, and he joins us now live from Kansas City, Missouri. Great to have you, Randy, on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, Lisa.
So you have an extensive report that tracks data from several different economists. And what's interesting is there was a much wider disparity just a few months ago. But now it seems as if these analyst estimates or economist estimates are converging somewhat. Just how much have they changed? And are you noticing, would you call that convergence significant?
I think the convergence has been significant. There's been more clarity brought to the outlook for this year for a couple of reasons. One, consumer spending picked up more than expected through the fall and early winter, and I think particularly important to the outlook for 2011. We got clarity on whether or not the 2001-2003 tax cuts would be extended. On top of that, I think the surprise was the 2 percentage point reduction in payroll taxes for this year. And that certainly boosted expectations about consumer spending continuing to remain pretty healthy during the year.
Now, you saw an unusually large jump, I guess, in GDP consensus forecast for 2011 in January. What are the estimates? What are the actual estimates for both this year and next year? And what do you qualify as an unusually large jump? This is something I took right from your research report. You can see here 2011, 2012 consensus forecast at 3.1% and 3.2%.
Well, we had a 0.5 percentage point jump in the consensus forecast for growth this year. That is an unusually large month-to-month change. The month before that, we'd seen the consensus forecast go up by 0.1 of a point. So together, we've seen the forecast for growth this year go up 0.6 of a percentage point. That is a large increase over a 2-month period of time. But you have to put that into the context of the fact that we're simply back to where we were at the beginning of last year in terms of expectations about growth in 2011. This was also the first month in which we began collecting forecasts for 2012. And as you mentioned, the projection for 2012 is 3.2% growth, approximately the same as what they're looking for this year.
All right, let's talk about the unemployment rate, however. Their economists don't seem quite as bullish, but what are you seeing? And is the pace of growth, the GDP forecast, does that align with what the forecasts are for the unemployment rate?
Well, economists still think that the unemployment rate is going to come down pretty slowly. While 3% growth certainly sounds good in the context of what we've seen recently, it's relatively modest in the context of what you would normally see in the wake of a very deep recession. As a result, it's just going to take a longer period of time to get this extraordinarily high unemployment rate down to what anyone would consider normal. That said, consensus expectations about job growth during 2011 have improved. A few months ago, I had asked the panelists for their expectations for the average monthly increase in non-farm payrolls this year, and the consensus was about 145,000 per month. This month, when I surveyed the panelists, the consensus forecast was for an average increase of about 188,000. That's certainly an improvement over what we've seen recently, and hopefully we'll see that those expectations continue to improve over the course of the year.
You know, I want to ask you, Randy, just very quickly, you've been tracking the economy for the past 30 years. Who is the most accurate forecaster? That is one thing you also look at.
Well, I would argue that the consensus is over long periods of time. You know, we have many fine economists that contribute to the newsletter, but everyone's track record over short periods of time can look relatively good, but over longer periods of time, it doesn't tend to compare to the track record of the consensus.
Randy? I apologize. I do know that it's DuPont. Their economists are quite good. We got to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us.